In life, I'm often reminded of an expression. Comparison is the thief of joy, coined by the late President Theodore Roosevelt. This quote is clearly true for every aspect of your life, but sometimes it rings particularly true in the collectibles market. I think this is why game room tours, collection videos, and FOMO are so strong in the secondary and even the primary gaming market. I, like many retro game collectors, can honestly say if we didn't buy another game for the rest of our life, we would still never run out of games to play. I mean, just check out some of these games I'm showing you here that I've never gotten around to putting in the console, let alone beating. Now, 360 games are on the rise due to Microsoft announcing they're closing down the shops. And if you're like me, you're getting severe flashbacks to the PS3, the DS and 3DS, and the Wii and WiiU all doing the same thing, and how their games all shot up in price, and every YouTuber was making videos about them, and, you know, so on and so forth. And I find it insane. People are now FOMOing into games that have been relatively available for 2 decades, as if these games are suddenly going extinct. Now, here's you guys a little anecdotal story. I work at a hobby shop here in town, and I was helping my coworker work out some video games, and I pulled him to the side and I said, hey, just so you know, Microsoft is closing down their store, or you know, what have you, so be on the lookout as games get traded in. You might start to see some of the value of them go up. And he says, oh yeah, games already have. I've already noticed some games we had priced out on the floor, people have brought them in, and now they've doubled in price. And he was pointing me to our showcase and how we've tripled, quadrupled the number of 360 games we're putting in the showcase, which is just insane to me. I left a comment on another video saying, I knew the 360 would have its day in the sun because kids are going to grow up. Like, you know, I'll talk later in this video about my own personal experiences with the 360. The console's almost 20 years old. It ran for a decade plus, give or take. So I knew it was going to have its come up, but I never thought we'd be sitting here saying Xbox 360 games are rare and we're FOMOing into them. Just insane little anecdotal story. So today's video is going to be about learning to be content with your collection on certain consoles and kind of in general too. You know, we're going to talk about ways to look at your collection and not be jealous of other people's collections and kind of beating yourself up for the games that you don't have. We'll be primarily focusing on 360, but we'll look at other consoles too. And I think a good starting point when discussing any of this would be asking yourself which consoles you want to collect for and what that end goal looks like. The 360 was never a console that was on my collecting radar. I'd pick up games here and there. I mean, I remember back in the day GameStop would have their 4 for 10, 4 for 20 deals on 360 stuff, just trying to get it the heck out of there. I mean, Microsoft is 2 generations past it now. And I'd go in there and I'd pick up stuff like, I remember getting Rage like 10 years ago. I'd always wanted Rage and saw it for $4.99 or whatever it was, you know, grabbed that. I'd pick up maybe some of the sports titles I didn't have, you know, just stuff like that. But it was never like, I'm going to go into GameStop and buy every single 360 game they had, like I did with the Wii U. While it was never on my collecting radar, it is one of my 5 favorite consoles of all time. And that may sound a little weird, but I never wanted a complete set because of how many games there are. But it is a top 5 console for me due to the sheer amount of games, the variety in genres, and the fact that this console came out in an interesting and pivotal years of my life. It came out in 2006, which would have been middle school for me. And it was my primary console through middle school, through high school, and into college. Eventually I got an Xbox One. But the Xbox 360 was my primary gaming console for almost a decade of my life, guys. And I was a lot more of a social gamer back then. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, anybody? Or the Borderlands trilogy. Those are some of my favorite games back then. But I also haven't played those games in about a decade or so. I played a lot of those games with my cousin. I was in Georgia, he was in Michigan. We were, half a country away. And Call of Duty and Borderlands were some of those games that we bonded over, like in Battle Block Theater and stuff like that. So the Xbox 360 will always have a special place in my heart, even though half the games I don't even think about anymore. Like, I have no desire to load Modern Warfare 2 at this point in my life. However, that's just the social games. It also produced some of my favorite first-person shooter games ever. I look back at Halo 3, the BioShock franchise, and Fallout New Vegas are some of my favorite games of all time. How about Rockstar? They were killing it at this point. It had Grand Theft Auto 4 and 5 plus Red Dead Redemption. A killer lineup for the console. And as I look at my 360 collection, most of these games are here and accounted for. It's not a console where I sold my childhood games, or I lost my childhood games, or, I moved and they got boxed up, or my mom sold them at a yard sale. No, I still have most, if not every one of my 360 games. So there was never a point where I walked into GameStop and thought, oh man, I used to own this game. No, I still pretty much own all my 360 stuff. I was into high school and in my freshman year of college at this point, and I just held on to all my stuff. Like, when I think back to the Nintendo 64, there's still games that I want to get for the 64 that I had as a kid. So that was never an element with my 360 collecting. But sure, how about the games that I missed out on growing up? I mean, I've told the story of Final Fantasy 13. I did not get that game till probably 5-10 years after it came out. The whole Lightning trilogy was over with. We had moved on to the Xbox One, and then I walk into a GameStop and it's $4.99 or whatever, and I'm like, oh sweet, Final Fantasy 13. I've never played this game before. And there are a couple of games like that. One that I've been desperately on the lookout to get is Lost Odyssey. We had it at work and it sold before I could get my hands on it. That's one that eludes me and one that I want to pick up. And some of the other RPGs, because I was not a big RPG guy at this time. But I have went back and got Blue Dragon and Tales of Vesperia, so if I ever get that itch to fire up an RPG on the 360, I do have options. So as you can see, I never intended to get a complete 360 set. As I'm seeing games go up, I don't feel compelled to jump on them. Marvel Ultimate Alliance was a game I picked up last year because I am insanely nostalgic about it. I knew I wanted to get it before the marketplace closed because I wanted the DLC. So that's why I say you got to think about, if you're frightened by Microsoft's decision, you just need to ask yourself, how much does it affect your decisions as far as a collector and a gamer? Because these physical copies will always be there. So do you need to pick up a game now to get the DLC, or to play it online for a few more months? Those are the questions you got to ask yourself before you go FOMO into a game that's just going to sit on your shelf. So yes, I need to grab some DLCs and some digital downloads. Symphony of the Night is on the 360 pretty affordably compared to getting it on the PS1, so I'd much rather just buy it on my 360. But then I'll be plenty content with where my collection is. And I look at other gaming libraries in my collection. I'm happy where most of them are. I mean, check out my SNES collection. I have every title I could possibly want for it. The Wii is another collection I'm really happy with where it's at. I have the Mario Galaxies, the Mario Parties, the Poke Parks, the Kirbys, the Super Paper Marios, and the Smash Brothers. I even grabbed some of the odder titles like Little King Story, Lost in Shadows, Zack and Wiki, and No More Heroes, to name a few. And since I'm not going for a complete Wii set, I don't feel pressured to grab the Zeldas, the Animal Crossings, or the Mario Karts. It's a good feeling not to have to FOMO into every little game. And for those of you that don't know, the Wii's time of exploding was during COVID. I mean, during COVID, all Wii games were probably like double what they were going for. So I'm not going for a complete set. So again, didn't feel pressured to get them during COVID either. Now conversely, my GameCube collection is nearing 200 titles. And for a lot of you, that's an unfathomable amount of games in a collection, let alone one single console. It's by far the console I have the most games for, yet it always feels underwhelming when looking at it numerically. That's because the GameCube has over 500 titles. Compare that to the 360 and the Wii, where I have only a few games. I want to add to the collection versus the GameCube, where I'm not even halfway done with it. My GameCube collection is awesome. I have almost all my favorites here. Kirby's Air Ride, Wario World, Chibi Robo, most of the Mario games, Star Fox Adventures, and the Pokemon titles. I have so many good games, it's hard to look at my collection there and belittle it. Yet, it can still feel hollow. As a player, I'm in love with my GameCube collection. As a collector, I wake up every day wanting to bring home more games than puppies a housewife brings home from her trip to Walmart. That can be a tough thing to wrangle around with. When days like that happen, I just try to remind myself that I have more than I could possibly hope to ever play. That helps with dealing with jealousy, FOMO, and impulses. So let me know, do you guys struggle with these things? Do you compare your collection to YouTubers or your friends? And what are some things you do to combat these negative thoughts when they do arise? I'd love to hear down below. And if you made it through this video, thank you guys so much. I appreciate anybody who hung out this long, watched the video, made it to the end. Comment down below what you do to combat your negative feelings when you start looking at game room tours or pickup videos. Let me know how you guys handle it. Right now we're dealing with FOMOing into 360, and you know, I may go out today and I may look for some 360 games, but I mean, I'm really just looking for Lost Odyssey and maybe a couple odds and ends things. I have almost every 360 game I could possibly want, so I don't feel the need to obsess over, you know, everybody's YouTube videos and the games I should be FOMOing into. So hopefully this helps you guys be content with your own collection. Give me some tips and tricks that you guys have learned over the years, and I will see you in the next one.